the marketing trends. The ebooks have been on a significant rise over the last 4 or 5 years, but they're slowing down just a little bit, and that's probably significant in terms of the early adopters have been in and buying all sorts of ebooks and pushing the prices up. Well, the prices are now dropped. Ebooks are cheaper, and while unit sales of books are actually up, you see that on the graph on the left, that we are increasing in the numbers of books that are sold. The average unit price of a book is dropping, and that has much to do with ebooks. Print is remaining a significant and important trend. That's where most publishers are making their money right now. Clearly, print books are the vast majority of revenue producing items for publishers. Yet they are approaching this by figuring out their strategies. And that's what we're hoping to do today with you a little bit, to see some ideas of what you might do. And if you look at the major publishers, which are coming out of here, this is from the Book Publishing Info Trends data that's available. Most of them are producing about 30% of their books with both book, print, and ebook at the same time. So they're going into the market saying, I know 30% of my books, I'm just going to make both a digital copy and a print copy. For the other large majority of them, about half of them, they're deciding based on the kind of format that the book is in. They'll make a decision about whether this will sell well in ebooks. They'll see a decision about how difficult it is to produce this book in an ebook, and that'll make their decisions. So about 50% of what they're producing, they're making a case-by-case decision about it. Some are still only print. Well, that number has been declining, where it's only print, and it's about 9%. And the actual is 4% of the start with ebooks. That's tending to rise up. So that number, there are more books that are coming out in digital first. And I think tablets are changing the game. I think we are at the cusp of something that's about to change in the market. In 2010, there were less than 25 million e-readers, Android, and iPad tablets just sold. So we had 25 million in 2010. In 2011, the numbers rose to 50 million. And in 2012, tablets alone are going to be in the 100 to 120 million. So they're doubling every year. The other significant event that seems to be shaping up is the Android is beginning to reach the iPad, or close in on it at least. That number is still disputed in terms of the tablet market share. Apple has been the predominant player for the last 2 years. Android is approaching their market share. So IDC is projecting that for 2013, we'll see Android getting up to about 49% and possibly taking the lead in the tablet market. This has also got implications for the e-ink devices that people are using simply as readers. The anticipation is that, in fact, these will start to tail off. The Wall Street Journal has been talking about that early this year, saying you may be seeing the end of the e-ink device. And the reason is that tablets are being adopted by lots of people for lots of reasons, and they render digital media very well. We've had some recent major developments this year. We've had Apple coming out this a little bit more than a year. They've offered the iAuthor device for enhanced ebooks. Inkling, producer of primarily textbooks, but tending to branch out, launched Habitat for creation of books as apps. And just recently, Barnes & Noble Book introduced Leaf Press, another publishing platform for authors. So there's a large number of options, and what are we to do? Well, I think we have some of the best advice we can gather here in the room today. You're about to hear from John Rosvilla of Emerson College. John has been in the academic end of teaching about publishing, but also in the hard end of producing digital work for Emerson College. He's also a consultant with many major publishers about their digital direction. We've got Kate Sullivan, who you heard earlier in the social networking section, and she's the founder and publisher of Canada Marketing Lead. I think that Kate is doing some of the most innovative work that I've seen from a number of publishers, both in packaging and how she's marketing those books as well. So Kate will be telling us her approach and a little bit about it. And we've got Jenny Hudson from Merrimack Media, who will be presenting on social media promotion of books. Jenny's a local in Cambridge. It was good to get her today, Jenny. Thanks. Had difficulties yesterday. And she's been active in the local group. Jenny's very clued into much of the publishing startups that are happening in the Boston community. And she presented last month at our IPNE local group at her Boston one, Charlotte is hosting. So we're about to have those sessions. I'll let you all start. We're going to start off with Jonah. Right there.
Okay, so I'm John Phil. I'm the electronic publisher in residence at Emerson College. What does that mean? Basically, for the past 5 years, I've developed the electronic publishing program for our graduate program, master's program in publishing, and our undergrad writing, literature, and publishing program. Emerson does not have an English department. They have a writing, literature, and publishing program. No, we're not just going to do literature. We have students learning book publishing, magazine publishing, and electronic publishing, and creative writing. So as the electronic publishing residence, I've developed web development classes, classes on creating apps, classes on making electronic magazines through the folio files, through Adobe's InDesign, and what I'm going to talk about today, which is ebooks. I teach an undergrad and graduate session on ebook development. So I'm going to run you through an oversimplified version of what and how you make ebooks. So let's start off. When we talk about ebooks, basically we're talking about two things. An ebook can either be a Kindle format or an EPUB format. Again, this is an oversimplification because if I say it's an EPUB format, we start going into, well, you're talking about an EPUB 2.0.1 or an EPUB 3. We're just going with EPUB right now. If you go with Kindle, you start saying, well, are you talking about a multi-format or a campaign format? Kindle's fine. All you need to know is Kindle works on Amazon. EPUB, pretty much everything else. So understand there's really two markets. There's the Amazon market and everybody else. Unfortunately, this is about 50% of the market right there, that one little publisher called Amazon who uses their own format. They take up most sales, which is positive because it's for Amazon. I'm not so positive about that. So let's talk about A's. When we talk about publishing, we talk about A's, we talk about Amazon, we talk about Apple, and we talk about Adobe. There really are no one else. When you talk about electronic publishing, you can do it yourself, but if you're going to deal with any kind of real program, you're going to deal with Amazon. Who makes Kindle? How can you make Kindle files? Well, it's programs you get from Amazon. That's the only place that you can make your Mobi files, or Mobi files that work for Amazon. You want to work on EPUB? Adobe InDesign 6 is a wonderful program from Creative Suite 6, as long as you can afford Adobe's programs. Otherwise, you're hand coding or using another service. And then there's Apple. Apple says, well, we'll take EPUB files, but we've got our own special qualifications as well. So when we talk about EPUBs, please remember the A's: Amazon, Adobe, and Apple. So another inside thing about Adobe is, when we look at these files, this is Kindle, Amazon, we've got our different readers. I'll go to Adobe in a second. They have something else more serious going on here, but we'll talk about Amazon because we already know they are evil as publishers. No, they're evil. These are three readers. We have our old version of Kindle, we have a paperwhite version of Kindle, and we have the Fire, which is fine. But you should be buying. Amazon wants you to buy Fire. They do not want you to buy the old Kindles. They do not want you to buy e-ink. In fact, they're getting rid of e-ink. And it's all going to be backlit screens. Because if you're in Apple, Apple's whole goal is not to have you read. I know as publishers we think, well, Apple's great to get books out there. Apple doesn't care. I'm sorry, Amazon doesn't care about making people read. Amazon cares about selling product. We get readers in there, they're going to buy movies. They're going to buy wall safes. They're going to buy lawnmowers. So remember, when you're dealing with Amazon, you're dealing with a company that says, yeah, we like to sell books, but lawnmowers have much better margins. So if we can get you to buy a lawnmower off one of these devices, it's so much better. Jeff Bezos has actually said that he will sell these things at a loss, these readers at a loss, your books at a loss, so that he can get you into his environment. You never leave. It's a beautiful marketing strategy. You never leave. Then we have Apple. Apple, honestly, doesn't care about publishers either. Remember, Steve Jobs famously said, or infamously said, no one wants to read anymore. Books are dead. And then they came out with iBooks. So we have to remember that. They use a Connect platform that you have to sign up to. You have to use your ISBNs. You have to do all these hoops to jump through just to get your books on the iBook store. And they don't necessarily tell you what those hoops are. I'm a consultant with Plowshares, a literary magazine out of Boston, and when we tried to get onto the iBook store, they rejected us for 6 months, and they wouldn't tell us why. And here's why. We had a price, point font price, right above the barcode that we forgot to see. They saw it on a postage stamp and said, there's a price on that cover. We're not accepting you. Get rid of the price. You're allowed into iBooks. But it took 6 months for them to get back and say, remove your price from your barcode and you can be part of our store. So I'm not too fond of going into iBooks. The nice thing is these are e-readers. You don't need to be in an iBook store to sell. Apple doesn't want to tell anyone that because then they don't make any money off of it, but you don't have to be on there. And then finally, let's talk about notes. So all those other e-readers, because they don't begin with that. They're not the A's, but they are. All of those readers use Adobe Digital Editions on the back end. So any problems you have with your Nook or your Kobo or any funky production work, it's all because it's Adobe Digital Edition. And when Adobe Digital Edition first came out for these readers, it had certain things it didn't like margins, small caps, spacing between paragraphs. No, those are bad things. Why would you ever want to do that? Try to do a drop cap at the beginning of your chapter, and Adobe Digital Edition would freak out. No, why do you want a drop cap? We start at the very beginning. That's every other reader that's not Apple and not Amazon uses Adobe Digital Edition. So no matter where you go, if you're using one of these devices, you are tied to one of these A's. You're tied to one of these giant corporations. There is, not yet, anyway, not yet, we haven't gotten to the truly independent ebook platform. We have ebook producers, we have ebook publishers, but our platforms are still tied to one of these big companies. So Adobe Reader, when you're developing